So what exactly is the machlekes? Left Rashi. Kiven Shivim Shana. What does it mean? Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah said, "I'm alive 70 years." Kvarayisi nireza. I look old like I'm 70 years. V'lei zakin mamish. The fact that he uses these words, says Rashi, Kiven Shivim Shana. So we see he wasn't actually 70 years. Shabasal of Seva. He got white hair that got the appearance of being older. Yem Shehaviru Rabban Gamliel Minisiyusei, the day that they removed Rabban Gamliel from being a Nasi. Uminu Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah Nasi. They appointed Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah and then there was a Nas because whatever the reason the Gemara says there, and he got this white hairs in his beard. And that day he said, I have the appearance of being 70 years. And it was that day that Zachisi, that he was able to find a moker for Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilis, and that was the day that he said he's Kiven Shivim Shana. Tzarech Bir. We have to understand, first of all, the Mshaychas, the Maimer mit Mbala Maimer Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah. What is the connection that Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah, who then became a Nasi, said this Zachisi, said these Limudim. Und die Shaychas der Mitvas, die Mishnah ist gesagt worden, B'yema, der Bekasher mit dem Yem, Shenisman Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah, Lenasi. The fact that it was said on that day, there must be a connection with the day that it was said, like the Rebbe says in the Ha'ara, that you see in Divrei Torah, in Halacha, by a Rav, two people ask a question, so there's halachas who takes precedence. And one of the halachas is that Azman Grama, Dovesh Azman Grama takes precedence. So the same thing by every person. If there's something that's connected with his time, that part of Torah takes precedence. If he was learning Torah on that day, it must be that Inyan in Torah had to do with Azman Grama, with his events of that day. The day Shenisman Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah Nasi, the Mistaber Lema, as Vibal Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah, hat sich ausgewählt in der Sugi und Teir in dem Tag, wenn geworden der Nasi ist als verbunden mit seiner Weide als Nasi bei Yisrael. Al derech der Chiev Aktima belim in der Teir Benyanim Shazman Grama. V'shleim as al derech says when it gets to Yidin befrat bekesher mit seinem Lim in der Teir Benyanim Shazman Shalega. So the first question is, what's the connection of Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah? What's the connection specifically with Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah saying this the day he became appointed as a Nasi? Und echt die Shaychas mit Divrei Rabbi Elazar Ben Azariah, ani Kiven Shivim Shana Davka, and why Davka is disconnected with the fact that on that day he got the appearance of Shivim Shana. So to understand all these things, says the Rebbe, we have to understand the Mishnah. The Mishnah there is Pshat, and the depth of that Pshat. And when we understand the Mishnah, we'll understand all of these questions, the answer to all of these questions, as well as what the real meaning of the Mishnah is, the connection between the Mishnah and this theme that we said before. What does it say in the Mishnah? In the Mishnah, Gitzach HaReis, der Geidel HaIli VaHashvach von Yitzias Mitzrayim. The Mishnah teaches us the importance, the greatness of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Azeich la'achrei v'Yidin zenish HaReis from Mitzrayim, that even after Yidin left Mitzrayim, hat men dem Chiyuv von Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim kil yemei chayecha sai bayamim and sai baleilis kedivrei ben zera sai beilam hazan sai lebeis HaMashiach kedivrei chacham. The Mishnah, the simple pshat of the Mishnah, is the Mishnah underlines the importance of Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's so important for us to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim that Chiyuv encompasses Yom V'Layla, like Ben Zayma, and Bizman Hazeh, the Beis HaMashiach, like the Chachamim. The time of them is, why is it so important? According to his opinion. Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim is, like it says the Lashon, is a Yiseid Gadol V'Amud Chazak B'Teiraseinu V'Emunaseinu, like it says in the Chinuch, that Yitzias Mitzrayim is the foundation of everything in Yiddishkeit. Why is it the foundation? Then opened up by Yidden the Inyan that we're able to be free, we're able to be liberated. As Yidden sind in a race for them gather from Avdus and Gevarim b'nei Chayrin be'etzah. Like it explains in many places, and it brings the order from the Maral, that Yidden by Yitzias Mitzrayim got the status be'etzah b'nei Chayrin. Once we went out of Mitzrayim, so no matter what happens to us, even though there was other Golusin, a Jew could get in prison, could get in jail, but we're not slaves, we're be'etzim free people. There's people that are free. Certain types of people are free people. They're be'etzem slaves. They're be'etzem avadim. You have the lashon evet kiyimlech. There's people who they get into positions of authority, and be'etzem is just an evet, and then everyone suffers from it. And then lahavdil fakert ba'yidin. No matter what status we have in the world, be'etzem we're b'nei chayrin. And that's something that was established, that was Yitzias Mitzrayim, and this is the importance of Skiris Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's what it says in Pshat, that Avadayim v'loy avadim la'avadim, this comes out even in Halacha, that Avadayim v'loy avadim la'avadim, in many halachas of avadim, Uba'efen von Apula Nimshachas Avständig, and this pu'ul, this effect of Yitzias Mitzrayim, of causing us to be B'nei Chayrim, giving us the status, this is ongoing forever. Uba'aveidas Adam. What does this mean in Aveidas Adam? Which is not separate from the Pshat. This is it's the same idea, but what does it mean? A little deeper. Yitzias Mitzrayim vadai die Yitzia von der Nefesh Alekis, von Meitzarim Mugerulim, von der Meiser Haguf and Elam Hazeh Bechlal. Just the same way it was in a Gashmistic way, that going out of the country of Mitzrayim established us as B'nei Chayrim. The same exact thing exists by every person in a Ruchnistic way. It's not like two different pshatim. In a Ruchnistic way, we also have this Mitzrayim. The Ruchnistic Mitzrayim is the Mitzarim, the imprisonment of the Guf Nefesh HaBahamis and Elam Hazeh in general, that it imprisons us, it confines us, it restrains us. And when we go free ourselves, we liberate ourselves from those chains, und werden verbunden und vereinzigt mit der Eibishter durch Teiro Mitzvahs. So that's the Ruchnis, the Yitzias Mitzrayim, that gives us, this makes us beruchnis free as a result of this Yitzias Mitzrayim that gave the ability always that every Jew in every place could be free. And wie bald as das is an Inyan Kloli in ganz Teira and Yiddishkeit. So it comes out when we understand what Yitzias Mitzrayim is, Sayed Pshat, that this is Negeya always. That's the very essence of a Jew, is that we're free people. And especially Beruchnias, that we're able to free ourselves, to go beyond whatever limitations are there around us, and be connected with the Eibishter. All of this is what the whole Teiro Mitzvahs is about. It's not one specific event in our history. This is the general inyan of Yiddishkeit. The Riber, therefore we have this mitzvah of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim, because this is relevant to every single step of our life, of our Teiro Mitzvahs. The Riber, therefore we have this necessity, Tizker, as Yem Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim Kel Yemei Chayecha, Biz Ba'efen as B'chol Der Vader, every single generation, V'chol Yem V'yem, and every single day, Chayev Adam Liri says, Atzme Kilu Hu Yatsa Hayem Mitzrayim. Ubepratis Yeser, Zen dem Farans, Drei Shlavim B'darkes. So this is in general, this is the general message of the mitzvah. That Yitzias Mitzrayim is being be'etzem free. Yitzias Mitzrayim is being be'etzem free, beruchnias, that I'm not confined by external circumstances or by my nature. I'm able to go beyond that and be a person serving, connecting to the Eibishter. And that has to always be there, otherwise you're missing in your foundation of your Avodas Hashem. That general idea of the Mishnah is divided into three specific points. And these, says the Rebbe, is three shlavim, 3 stages and 3 levels. Aleph. So the first thing, says the Mishnah doesn't say this separately, but from the fact that in the Mishnah there's 2 opinions of Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilis or Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim B'Meisa Mashiach, you see there's a third thing in which there's no argument, so it doesn't have to be said in the Mishnah. The fact that Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim by day and Bizman Hazeh, that no one questions. So that's a step that no one has to prove or argue about. And then there's 2 steps that you need the argument, you need the opinions. So the first step that doesn't have to be spelled out is Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim B'chol Yem V'yem, that in the generations and in every generation by day you have to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim. Hayam. In other words, this fact that Yitzias Mitzrayim is a Yesod Chazak, it's the foundation of every single step of our Yiddishkeit, the fact that we're free and we could break free of the barriers of our Guf Nefesh HaBahamis. So this requires that Al Kapanim Bayayim, when there's a day, you have to live with that Avodah of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Ben says, what does it mean by Yayim? Yayim in Ruchnius means a time when in my Avedas Hashem, it's light. When I see, when I'm in touch with the truth, then it says, Meir der Eir Havaya, when the Eir Havaya is access, it's clear to me, it's visible to me. That's what Yeh means. Like you see in the pasuk, what's the taich of Pshute Shel Mikra and the pasuk for Ben Chamish Shel Mikra? What does Yeh mean? It says Vayikra Alekim La'er Yom. So Yom is the state of when there's light. When we say to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim by Yom, that means in a state of light. What does it mean, light? When things are visible, when the truth is reality is visible to me. That bepashta zayin, so in such a time of Yom, that there's no argument in the Mishnah. That's a given. That's according to everyone. That then, of course, there has to be their liris as atzmei ki'ilu hu yatsa hayom mitzrayim. That a person has to see himself like he went out today from Mitzrayim, which means when there's a time of day when I see clearly everything is the Eibishter, then I could for sure relate with the fact that no external or internal barriers could imprison me, that Yitzias Mitzrayim is a constant. The Aveda von Ayidin Tzarezkin from Mitzrayim Gvulim, then for sure I'm able and it could be demanded from me and I have the mitzvah to free myself from all Mitzrayim.
Why do you need the Ikar Nafkimiyos of these two reasons of the Chinuch or Avedas Adam is in the second stage when you're in Galus, when you feel limited, you feel that's when you need to be in the Mantizka. Remember, if you're in the time of when it's light, then
the question is if you're able to. So what's a given, the first step is both of these things to break free and have a guf and nefesh habahamis when it's a time of galus, so then there's mitzarim. Then you have to live with the mitzarim. You're saying then you need the Yitzias Mitzrayim even more. Of course. The question is, are you able to? Could we demand that from you? Could we be mechayev you in that? Or could we say it's galus?
See, this that a Yid is a free person and everything's going, let's say he's not in a time of bad matzah, in a Hashem or Begashmis, then he doesn't have to work on going out of himself. Okay, he doesn't. Why does such a big yisoid in the
when it's Yom, you say?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to work of going out of himself?
Besides the fact that they're etzim free people or whatever it is.
Yeah, but Teiro mitzvahs in the best time of Geula, in the Beis Hamikdash. But still, Teiro mitzvahs is in Eilam Hazah. The Yid was living in the Beis Hamikdash and serving the Eibishter in a time of Eir when it was Kashem Shabali Reis Kach Bali Reis. The serving the Eibishter still entailed that he had to not look at the Gashmias and not follow his Yitzhahara, which was telling him to do Avedas then, just like he's telling us now. Like you learned the Gemara in Seitayad, the Kabisha, Shazinsa Bazara and Pirchei Kuna. There's the same Yitzhahara in the Beis Hamikdash, in the place of Kedusha. Elamai, since there's a Beis Hamikdash and there's the ability Kach Ba'alires, so then there everyone could understand that we could demand from the person to be free from those barriers, to break free from those imprisonments, and to do what the Eibishter wants. That's the next steps. And we can take it further, and the Mishnah to be Mechadish, no, we could demand that from you even in other circumstances. So what's the second step, base? Neisaf of them, in addition to that, Kumtsu, their Chiddush, comes a second step, and a Chiddush that's not such a given, that's not as simple. As Maskirin, Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilis, be Benzoim Madash from Pascal Mantisker, Yitzias Mitzrayim Kili Mechayecha Lavi Aleilis. Benzoima comes and is Mechadish a second step. No, by night you still have to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, which means as afilu in Zman von Laila v'Choshech, when es is nit meir der Havaya. Bis afilu in dem Laila von Golus can und darf euch sein Yitzias Mitzrayim. Even in a time when by the individual, that he's in a time that there's a hell of a hester by him, or collectively there's a laila by Yidden in general, which means the whole world is in a laila. So then I would think, then I have to live within the Meitzarim Magvulim. Person doesn't have the koyach then to live in a way that he could feel this be'etzem dike freeness. Person can't live then in a way that he could disregard the hagbolus of the guf and nefesh habahamis or of the world around him and break through. says Ben Zaymano Kel Yemei Chayecha Lahavi Aleiles, that this Yisai, this foundation of Yitzias Mitzrayim is accessible, and therefore it's a mitzvah and a chiyuv even b'leilis. Then comes the third step. The Chachamim to an Eif Nachmer. The Chachamim say even further. Yeah, when you learn the remainder of the Sicha and Shabbos, you also take a project and try to tackle this hara. First you learn the hara and the Hakadah, and this hara, and try to. But the Mefalpal, all the different opinions. Is it a machlekes, and what's the machlekes, and how to fit this in with each of them? But a kapanim, the Chachamim say a third stage. Once the Giyah tells, what's the third stage? As Keo Yemei Chayecha is Koilo Noisaf of Ganse Elam Hazeh, Yemei Chayecha Elam Hazeh, Oich Lahavi Limeisa Mashiach. The Chachamim say there's another chiddush, Lahavi Limeisa Mashiach. Now, let me first tell you one point outside, because in the build-up, we seem to be coming up against a brick wall. Again, saying there's a chiddush of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Get out of Mitzrayim, you're able to, you have a mitzvah to, you have the ability to go free yourself from all barriers and be free in a literal sense, in the Avodas Hashem, which are all connected. Ben Zema says, yeah, that chiddush is even baleilis. It's by night, still you could go free. Yeah. Chachamim say a third step, even b'meisa Mashiach. It sounds like, wait, something went wrong. We turned off in a turner somewhere.
Is Mashiach that bad?
Mashiach, of course Mashiach. Then why shouldn't we be able to? It's not. It doesn't seem. So the Rebbe is going to explain the chiddush of the Chachamim in depth, two ways, but then we'll come back and summarize it how it's a simple third step. It says, first the Rebbe is going to say, just type, Havi Meisa Mashiach, was der chiddush in them is a zweiendig. There's a double chiddush here. Aleph, one, a chiddush in them din von Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. First of all, the Chachamim say a halacha l'maisa. As der chiyuv of Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, Kel Yemei Chayecha, was geht auf Yemei Chayecha ba'ilam hazeh b'zman hazeh, that the chiyuv of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim is Koilol Yemei Mashiach, biz as das is nichlal in dem Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim from Kel Yemei Chayecha and Eilam hazeh far Yemei Mashiach. Before we get to two, what did the Rebbe say is the first chiddush? And did we see any direction for answering the question we just asked? The chiddush is that even in Mesa Mashiach, still we remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, right? Yeah? No? Is that what it said over here?
The Schiras, Mashiach.
And now,
Part of the
No, already.
no, it's talking about now.
What?
Talking about now.
It seems
Talking about now? What's the chiddush din? The Rebbe said one is a chiddush din. What's the chiddush din? What? Oh. The Rebbe added a few words. He says the chiddush is not that we remember it Yemei Mashiach. That's the chiddush, yeah, but just added two words. That the chiddush is that this mitzvah that we have now is also including the mitzvah of Yemei Mashiach. The Nekudas Habir that we're going to say now at length, what the Chachamim are really accomplishing is that you can't separate the Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim of Yemei Mashiach and the Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim of now. It's one long mitzvah. Why? Because the Yitzias Mitzrayim, the way it's going to be in the highest level when Mashiach comes, is one and the same with the Yitzias Mitzrayim now. So therefore, this is a third step. It's a third chiddush along the lines of the first chiddush. The first step was you have to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim B'Yom. The second Yitzias Mitzrayim is even Baleilis, you could remember Yitzias Mitzrayim. The third step is even Baleilis, that it's so dark, not only could you remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, but you could remember Yitzias Mitzrayim in its highest level, the way it's going to be La'asid Lavi, because the Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim of La'asid Lavi is part of the mitzvah today. That's a simplified of what we're going to say. We're going to have to get the Aces, but that's just to get at the direction.
Part of Leilis or part of Yom?
This is part of, you may say, what? Part of Leilis.
Because you know that as one
Part of Leilis.
One kiyuv, Kolim Yechecha.
Yeah. So therefore, but therefore it's a chiddush. Dafka, then we understand the continuity, how it's three shalom. Their chiddush in them is nach grasser. The Rebbe said there's two chiddush. First of all, the chiddush it did. So already in the first part, those extra words gave us the key to how it's a third step, right? So what's the chiddush even more? Af al pi. Af al pi vas b'maisa Mashiach is a matzav shel geula. In a matzav shel geula is l'chayr the shaykh der inim von schiras geula. See, when Mashiach comes, we're in geula. So what do we need to remember? Yitzias Mitzrayim. We already have the ultimate geula. Still says a chiddush eich dan vet me masker zayin Yitzias Mitzrayim unochme. Afal pivat the gula mitzvah shleimus shaloi be'erich zu gulas Mitzrayim zayin dika gula shein achrei hagolus and demot vet zayin besruach atoma avr min ha'aretz yitzia gula shleima von alle mitzar megvulim ha'sheki gulas Yitzias Mitzrayim zok ben hagula sheyesh achrei hagolus and nita gula shleima v'amar Rashi ben Nefashis Yisrael adayin hay betakvim the river gedav zayin b'kibarach even though the gula siddha would be much greater than Yitzias Mitzrayim because it would be complete, not like Yitzias Mitzrayim when there was still a little bit residue of Ra that was left over by us. Yeah, so l'chayra, what do we have to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim when we're way beyond Yitzias Mitzrayim? Von desweg in Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Eichli Meisa Mashiach. Still, we continue to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim even when Mashiach comes. Yes, as we ved demot maskir sein Yitzias Mitzrayim is a rayas das es zu liba tayela, zu lib der Meilen, dem Chiddush was Yitzias Mitzrayim vet eichton eich demot kedukam. And this second shlav complements the first shlav. It supplements the second chiddush, the way it's going to be explained in the Hemshech of the Sicha. Why taka do we have to explain Yitzias Mitzrayim with Mesa Mashiach? Because there's an aspect of Yitzias Mitzrayim that's part and parcel of the Gula Asidah. And therefore, since there's an aspect of Yitzias Mitzrayim that's part and parcel of Gula Asidah, so that every day we have the mitzvah to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim the same way we're going to remember it La'asid Lavai, shows us how in this chiyuv every day, even Baleilis, even Bizman HaGolos, we still have the ability not just for Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, but for the ultimate way, the way it's when Mashiach comes, the way it contains the Gula Asidah. Now these are so far just ACs, but I want to point out right now.
What's the second chiddush over the first one? What's the second chiddush?
The first chiddush is the fact that the mitzvah today is a mitzvah that includes the Mesa Mashiach. We're focusing on what the mitzvah of today is. The second chiddush says what the chiddush is that when Mashiach comes, still has the mile of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Really, the second one gives normally you would say the opposite way. First is the simple chiddush. The simple chiddush is that even though Mashiach came, still you say when you're learning the Mishnah and the Gemara, the chiddush is that you don't say Shraga B'tira Mayahani, and then maybe you'll say the first one. The whole point over here in the Sicha is to show how this is another shalab, how we're containing something in the mitzvah today. It's a bigger chiddush and how far we're able to reach, and therefore we have a chiyuv to reach even baleilis, even now. And in order to explain how far we're reaching, that's explained with the second chiddush. Now, before we get the details that explains these two chiddushim, so let's understand. Now it comes out that in this Mishnah, when the Chachamim say Lahavi Limaisa Mashiach, was liegt in them that in our mitzvah today, Baleilis and Golos, in times of our own difficulty, when we're remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim, we're not just living with Yitzias Mitzrayim of the past, but this Yitzias Mitzrayim of the past contains in it the Gula Asidah, because that's the pnimius of the second chiddush. That's the reason why we continue to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim La'asid Lavi, like we're going to say. So therefore, in this Chiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, part of this mitzvah today is the same mitzvah, concludes in it, it encompasses in that the ultimate remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim, the way it's going to be Las Lavi, which is the ultimate Yitzia from Mitzarim of Las Lavi. So what the Chachamim really teach us is that no matter how low the situation is, you're still having that, you still have the connection with not just the past, Yitzias Mitzrayim of the past, but with the Yitzias Mitzrayim of the future. The way it was seemingly in this sisma, in this theme, that sounds like a play of words, is not a play of the word. That is the oimik of the Mishnah. That's, and without that, what are the Chachamim adding? That is the word of the Chachamim. Why is that in the halacha, in the simple, practical halacha of saying it l'meisa Mashiach? Because the mitzvah today contains l'meisa Mashiach. Because today in our Aveda we have the ability for the Yitzias Mitzrayim, for going free of barriers, the way it is in the highest level, the Gula Mitzvah Shleim of Mashiach. Because we have the koyach today to connect ourselves with Mashiach and to bring into our Aveda today the Aveda of Mashiach. The way it is in the Chassidish Shabbat. So it's not a word, a play of words. It's a sign that it's a line that brings out the real emek and pnimius of what it says in the Mishnah that's contained in the halacha l'maisa of the Mishnah. Yeah, this is the Isis. Let's see what the explanation of this. Shleimer the bir baza begulas Mitzrayim is neschadish gevar kolus in hageula. By Mitzrayim was neschadish geula. The psichas hatziner of alle geulas euchti von die später die golius keil the gula mitzvah geula asida. Then was opened the pipe, opened the door for all gulas nachmer. Ilu zachu vod Yitzias Mitzrayim given the gula shleima shein acher golf peifer von Havai Yimlech leilam vod Vietnam gesagt in Shir Sayam. When Yidden said as Yasher Havai Yimlech leilam vod say Chazal, because then was supposed to be the final geula, which is forever Havai Yimlech leilam vod. Varmen valdemot gleich allein in Eretz Yisrael begula shleima. Nach Yes, es haben sich allein gemischt. Seitige in Yonim is das nicht a reis bepeil. Didn't happen lepeil. Was not just a pshat that, even were zeicha, something else would have happened by Yitzias Mitzrayim, and that didn't happen, so only one thing happened. The pshat is that by Yitzias Mitzrayim would have been the gula, because that was b'pnimius what happened. The zaitige in Yanim prevented it from happening in actuality in Achitzenius. But that's because in essence, in Pnimius, that's what Yitzias Mitzrayim really is. Apize yesh leima. As a mit, as in Yom from Yitzias Mitzrayim is Yimeisa Mashiach. That the true inyan of Yitzias Mitzrayim, that is the Pnimius. What is Yitzias Mitzrayim? Is Yimeisa Mashiach. That's what Chazal are telling us. Havai Yimlech. Otherwise, it's tam. If it would, it's not what it. That's telling us what's happening. The gula mitzvah shleiman amitas a pnimius inyan from Yimeisa Mashiach is gulas Mitzrayim, and therefore it works vice versa. What's gula mitzvah shleima? It's the ultimate. It's the climax of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Because in actuality, in Chitzenius, like it happened in a different way, that the two were separated and the two were divided into two different events. Is that sufficient? I have 6 man bechitzenius. Bis die Gula Shleima kommt bepeil. Aber echt die ganze Zeit bin time zwischen Gulas Mitzrayim and the Gula Shleima kol yemecha yechabeil mazeh. But because in essence, the Pnimius, they're one inyan, the Gula of Yitzias Mitzrayim is the Gula Asidas, the Gula of Yitzias Mitzrayim, the way it was really in its essence. And the Gula of Yitzias Mitzrayim was the Gula Asida without the Chitzenius. Therefore, Dav Zayin Tiskers Yem Tzeis Chom Yeretz Mitzrayim Bizas Kol HaYomim Mimei Gula Rishonim Migolos Mitzrayim Ad HaGola Asida B'Gula Mimei Riyamenu Amin Hem Yimei Tzeis Chom Yeretz Mitzrayim. So now, this chiyuv of living with Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Tiskers Yem Tzeis Chom Yeretz Mitzrayim is connected with the fact that Yitzias Mitzrayim is the Gula Asida. Vayes as Yitzias Mitzrayim is Pnimis Reinion for Yemei Mashiach. The Ribber is Chiras Yitzias Mitzrayim Kil Yemei Chayecha Kilu B'Meila Oich Lahavi Yemei Mashiach. Living with Yitzias Mitzrayim, that we say it La'asad La because it's one Indian, it's one Geula, is living with Mashiach. So again, Pnimis Reinion, when we're remembering every day Yitzias Mitzrayim, what does that mean? Living with Mashiach. We're remembering every day. That's why do we remember Yitzias Mitzrayim and Lasad Lavi? Because they're not separable. They're one Indian. So remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim every day because we're just going from the Chitzenius to the Pnimius. We're crossing the bridge from the way it happened with Peo, that because of the Zaytik and Yanim it was missing part of the details, to the Gula Asida when it will be with all the details. We're continuing to live with Yitzias Mitzrayim. We're living with the essence of Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is Mashiach. So Leman Tiskers Yem Tzeischa Mi'eretz Mitzrayim. According to the Chachamim, who said Kol Yemei Chayecha Lahavi Limeisa Mashiach, which means in literally you're remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim when Mashiach comes. Why is that? Because Yitzias Mitzrayim and Mashiach is one Indian. With that halacha we see, so when we're remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim, and Yitzias Mitzrayim is one Indian, that's why we remember Yitzias Mitzrayim when Mashiach comes. Remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim every day is remembering Mashiach. This halacha of the Chachamim, Kol Yemei Chayecha Lahavi L'meisa Mashiach, means live with Mashiach every day. The theme of Kines HaShluchim and all the sichas thereafter. Al Pizah Zeich move on. Farvas Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim L'meisa Mashiach. Afa Pivas Demot Vet Min Shtein and Amatzav Shal Gula and Agula Shalei Berech to Gulas Mitzrayim. Now let's spell out a little bit the answer to the other side of the Chiddush. But Sof Kol Sof, when Mashiach comes, why are we mentioning Yitzias? But we're beyond that. We're higher than that. Sof Kol Sof Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Chitzenius was lacking. We have Mashiach, we have everything. Why do we have to still remember once upon a time that all we had was Yitzias Mitzrayim? Well, Aleph Yitzias Mitzrayim is das Chala. Lo Nachmer de Pnimis for Yemei Mashiach. So Sof Kol Sof, if they were two separate events, so then you have a question. Shraga B'Kir Ramaya Hani. When you remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, I have now something bigger. But if it's one thing, so I'm at the end and I'm still being thankful for this started with Yitzias Mitzrayim. This was contained in Yitzias Mitzrayim. But still, Sof Kol Sof, I have the end now. Why do I have to remember the beginning? So therefore the Rebbe says more than that. Base. And also because even though the Gula Asida, which is the end, the Pnimius, like the Chitzenius, something, the Pale Mamish of the Gula, contains seemingly much more than Yitzias Mitzrayim. But in the way it is in the first stage, in the beginning, in the Yitzias Mitzrayim, there's also a Maila. Yitzias Mitzrayim tutei fa'chidush in Yemei Mashiach. As Mahat Eich, the Maila von Yitzias Mitzrayim, wie das Zusammenpeil und zusammen was wir Sachen, das Lezachen, das auch gleich sein, die Gula Schleime, die Maila von Skafis, die Trache, wie bald auf die Reise nach dem Betokvik, genau. That the Aveda of Yitzias Mitzrayim, when there's still a Ran, you still have to struggle and you still have to fight and you still not strong, has a Maila over Yemei Mashiach. Skafia, there's a struggle. The fight itself has a value. The fight has its beauty. The Mela is when Mashiach comes, when we don't have to fight, then there's this Ruach HaTom Ha'avim Min Haaretz. We still remember Yitzias Mitzrayim. We still want to, at least with our thinking about it, bring into our Aveda this sweetness that comes only from having to struggle and having to fight and having to encounter the challenges and boundaries. Aber die Schira von Yitzias Mitzrayim, but Sof Kol Sof, even though it does have some Maila, but it's a Maila kind of like it says in the Lashon Chassidus, the Lashon HaYemim, I think is we're going to bank sich noch to go instead. It's a Maila that's there in our remembering about it and wishing for wistful about it. But it's still secondary, we bank sich noch it, but we have then a higher Aveda. B'derech Tafel Shetei Shibud Malchis Iker Yitzias Mitzrayim Tafelei. While the Iker Gilui Demol is from the Gula Shleima Shalom Maila Mikol Medida Vagbala. The main Gilui is that we're completely in a matzav of Gula, we're beyond any Mitzar Megula. Und zusammen damit ist mit Maske Yitzias Mitzrayim b'derech Tafel, weil die Meile von der Gula Shlema, Meile mikom Dide Vagbal Legamri Beifen von Vetzruach Atum Ha'avim min Haaretz is Habcha, wird Nimshach in der mit Dide Vagbal von Keli Mechayecha Mitzias Elam Hazeh, die Meile von Eskafia in Gulas Mitzrayim. We mention Yitzias Mitzrayim because we bring this, we imbue this mile of Ishabcha into Eskafia. Mashenkin eben weil demot nicht Maske wenn Yitzias Mitzrayim, wo man kann meinen, als die Gula ist abgeteilt von Keli Mechayach in Elam Hazeh. Just like, seemingly the general, just like in Elam Hazeh, we bring in Elam Hazeh Yimei Mashiach, because you can never separate them. The highest Geula, the highest level of Geula is part of the mitzvah of Keli Yimei Chayecha, of Yitzias Mitzrayim, the way we have it today by Yom and even by Leilis. So too, when Mashiach comes, we remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, that the highest is Hapcha, is also connected with this Kafia, is also connected with our Aveda when we have to struggle with an adversity, with a Ra, with a challenge, with the Meitzarim Magvulim that are outside of us. Damit ist verstandig der Heisofa und der Chiddush von die Chachamim Legabi Ben Zema. So now, coming back and spell and Kilo Firais, that the Ben Zema said Balelis, and the Chachamim added Limesa Mashiach Neisaf of Divrei Ben Zema. As Mahad Dominion von Yitzias Mitzrayim Kil Yimei Chayech Eicht Balelis in dem Laila von Golos, is in the Chachamim Mechadish Kil Yimei Chayecha Lahavi Limesa Mashiach as Kil Yimei Chayecha Ba'elam Hazeh Sai Bayamim und Afilu Balelis Echesh Chagolos hat min Neisaf auf dem Dage von Yitzias Mitzrayim Agula Sheina Shlema wie das Demot gewinn Begoloi euch die Dage von Yitzias Mitzrayim wie das Bemis Limesa Mashiach die Gula Shlema Sheina Achri Agolos. So now just came the Pshat in the Mishnah. That's spelling out everything we said until now. From explaining what's the Chiddush of the Chachamim, comes out the Chachamim are adding, Ben Zema said a Chiddush in Baleilis.